Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone. On this opportunity, we are from Group 8, want to present our material about sociolinguistics. There are three main points of discussion that we will explain here. The first is an explanation of the definition of sociolinguistic, which will be explained by Tata. And the second is an explanation of sociolinguistic comprehending language variation, which will be explained by Okta. And the last is analyzing linguistic and sociolinguistic variation, which will be explained by me. All right, without wasting the time, let us begin. Okay, Tata, you can start the presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Amanda, for giving me the chance to talk. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone. In this occasion, I'm going to explain about the definitions of sociolinguistic. Okay, so after I read a few articles about what is the definitions of sociolinguistic, sociolinguistic is a field of study that scrutinizes the intricate interplay between language and society. It meticulously examines how linguistic structures and the patterns vary according to social factors such as age, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and geographical location. So through empirical investigation, social linguistic endeavors to elucidate the complex mechanism underlying language use and the variation within diverse social contexts. So by analyzing linguistic phenomena through a social-cultural lens, scholars in this discipline seek to unravel the underlying societal norms, cultural values, and the power dynamic that shape communicative behavior. So in essence, social linguistics serve as a critical apparatus for comprehending the intricate tapestry of human language and its socio-cultural milieu. I'm going to explain it simpler so that we can understand it better. Think of it as the study of how language and society are like best friends. They're always influencing each other, right? So sociolinguistics help us understand how social factors like culture, identity, and power shape the way we use language. It's like looking at language through a social lens, as I said before, where we explore how people communicate differently, depending on things like their age, gender, ethnicity, or social class. So it's all about seeing how language connects to the world around us. I'm gonna give an example more so that we can actually visualize it easier. Imagine, I want you guys to imagine again, like imagine you're talking to a friend at school, or maybe at college, and then to your boss at work. Maybe you're working as a part-time job at a part-time job. Notice how you might use different words or maybe even speak in a different way. That's kind of what social linguistic is about. How we change the way we talk, that reflects to how social factors like where we are from and the setting we're in influencing how we talk. So understanding social linguistic is like noticing those changes and figuring out why they happen. I guess that's all from me. That's the definitions of social linguistic that I conclude. I will give it back to the moderator.
Okay, thanks Tata for the explanation. Okay, next material will be explained by Okta.
Okay, thank you for Amanda for giving me an opportunity to explain my material about comprehending language variation. Next slide. Okay, language variation and sociolinguistic variation and sociolinguistic variation. Variation between language, dialects, and speakers is known as intra-speakers variation. Variation within a language of a single speaker is called intra-speaker variation. Since the rise of sociolinguistics in the 1960s, interest in linguistic variation, also called linguistic variability, has developed. Reply or ill trust notes that variation, far from being peripheral and inconsequential, is a vital part of ordinary linguistics behavior. He concepts in Language and Linguistics, 2007. The formal study of variation is known as variationist sociolinguistics. Okay, linguistic variation is central to the study of language use. In fact, it is impossible to study the language forms used in natural text without being confronted with the issue of linguistic variability. Variability is inherent in human language. A single speaker will use different linguistic forms on different occasions, and different speakers of a language will express the same meaning using different forms. Most of this variation is highly systematic. Speakers of a language make choice in pronunciation, morphology, word choice, and grammar depending on the number of non-linguistic factors. There are two types of language variation, linguistic and sociolinguistic. With linguistic variation, the alternation between elements is categorically constrained by the linguistic context in which they occur. With sociolinguistic variation, speakers can choose between elements in the same linguistic context, and hence the alternation is probabilistic. Okay, let's move on. And linguistics variation is phonological variation is related to investigate differences in pronunciation across dialects or sociolects. This includes examining vowel shifts, consonant chains, and intonation patterns. And then morphological variations explore variation in word structure, including differences in affixation, compounding, and word formation processes. Scientific variation analyzes differences in sentence structure, word order, and grammatical construction across different language varieties. And the last one is lexical variation. Its main variation in vocabulary, including differences in word choice, slang uses, and borrowing from other language. And now we are talk about sociolinguistic variation. Okay, the first one is regional variation. Is related to investigate how language use varies geographically, including differences in dialects, accents, and regional vocabulary. So, regional variation is related with dialects. That's imagine a language as a vast landscape, just like mountains and valleys have the terrain, right? So geographical distance leads to regional variation called dialects. And these variations share a core vocabulary and grammar, but differ in the first one in pronunciation. Okay, word might be pronounced differently in different regions. Think British and versus American English have a different pronunciation, right? And then let's move on. And vocabulary is regional words and slang may emerge. For example, y'all, WL in the southern US. And then grammar, sentence structures might show a slight variation. For example, past participle uses in some English dialects. For example, Japanese dialects spoken in different parts of Indonesian. That's multitudes of English dialects across the globe. Okay, let's move on. And social variation is explain how language use varies based on social factors such as social class, ethnicity, gender, and age. This could include differences in speech patterns, vocabulary, and discourse styles. Okay, social variation is related with socialites, right? So social factors like age, education, corruption, and even gender can influence language use. So this leads to the creation of socialite varieties spoken by specific social groups. So here are some examples. The first one is age. Okay, teenagers might have their own slang, right? So while professionals use a more formal register, when we talk with our friends, we use a non-formal language, but when we speak with our lecturer, we must use a formal language. So let's move on in education. So educational background influence vocabulary complexity and sentence structure. We must learn English when we are grow up. We must learn. Okay, now we talk about corruption. Is doctors have medical jargon, artists might use vivid language, and engineers have technical terms. Okay, let's move on to gender. While involving some cultures have general language variation, for example, grammar slang, legal jargon, medical terminology, as like Valley Girl, speech patterns. So this specific example may be delayed. Okay, let's move on and stylistic variation. Explore how language changes depending on the context or situation. This includes differences between formal and informal language, as well as variation in speak register across different social settings. Stylistic variation is related with registers. So imagine when we language as a chameleon. It adapts its style depending on the situation. This is what stylistic variation or register is all about. We adjust our language based on the first one is formality. Formal registers are used in presentation and essays, while informal registers are used in texting and casual conversations. And the first, okay, and purpose. We use technical registers for specific tasks, like writing lab reports, and creative register for artistic expression in poetry or novels. And then audience. We tailor our language to suit the listener or reader. We will not speak to the professional the same way we speak to our friend. For example, formal register in a job interview, informal register in a text message, technical register in a scientific paper. And then historical variation trace the evolution of language over time, examining how language change reflect historical events, societal shifts, and cultural influences. Historical variation is related with language evolution. So language are not static entities. They evolve over time, influenced by historical events, cultural exchange, and technological advancements. These historical variation can be seen in the first one is vocabulary. New words emergence and old ones become obsolete. For example, floppy disks versus USB driver. And then grammatical structures can change over time. For example, the evolution of prep conjunction in English. And then pronunciation. Pronunciation can shift, making all text sounds different when read aloud today. For example, the evolution of Old English to modern English, the incorporation of learn words from other language. For example, sushi for Japanese is sushi from Japanese. Okay, maybe that's all for me. Thank you for your attention. I'm go back to Amanda.
Okay, thanks for the explanation, Oktavia. Next is about analyzing linguistic and sociolinguistic variation. Analyzing of linguistic variation and sociolinguistic involve understanding how language can vary in terms of sounds, sentence structure, vocabulary, and the influence of social factors. Okay, next, Tata.
Next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phonological. Okay. I will explain each aspect of language variation specifically. The first is phonological variation. This focuses how sounds are produced and perceived differently. Accent, for example, accent. People from different regions might pronounce vowel, think the A sounds but in various English dialects, or consonant like the R sound in some American and British accent differently. Next. The second is grammatical variation. This looks at how sentence structures can vary. Formal and informal speech often show this variation. For instance, in formal context, we might say, I ain't going nowhere, while following a more standard structure like I'm not going anywhere in formal situation. Next is lexical variation. This refers to the use of different words or phrases for the same thing. For example, regionalism, soda versus pop, slang terms, weak, cool versus very nice, and technical jargon, medical terms versus everyday words, all fall under the category. Next. Okay, the next is social factors and language variation. First is registers. These are a variation used in specific situation. For example, you might use a formal register when giving a presentation, but switch to a casual register when chatting with friends. Second, social stratification. Language variation can reflect social class or status. Certain words or pronunciation may be associated with particular social groups. Third is power dynamics. The use of language can reflect power imbalances. For instance, someone in a position of authority might use more formal language or technical jargon to distance themselves from others. Okay, Tata. Okay, the last one is example. There is two examples. The first is imagine a conversation between two friends from different parts of the country. They might use different words for the same thing, think tonic versus soda, or have slightly different pronunciation, think are sound. The second is the doctor talking to a patient might use medical jargon, anterior crucial ligament tear, while explaining the same condition to a colleague using more technical but less jargon-heavy terms, ACL tear. Okay, from the example show how language variation occur in everyday life and in every social context. Right, I think that's all for us. If there is any mistake, we apologize. Thanks for your kind attention. Good evening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bye-bye.